Yo, 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 War Rapport family. It's your boy Mike G here with Ike Jones and Caesar Walker. Fellas, how we doing this fine Sunday? We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, man, doing good, man. Let's go.
Oh, man. So we've made some hires. Harsin has rounded out his staff. We waited to bring you guys this live to make sure we could gather as much information as possible. I want to go ahead and just address one thing up front here. It looks like Travis Williams, there's no decision being made. As far as I know, he interviewed. They were looking at some other things, right? As far as Travis is concerned. So some other people did interview for the job. I don't know about you guys, but I'm holding out hope that they keep Travis on. I think he's a first-class representative of Auburn and ambassador for the program, and a great shaper of young minds. So we really hope that they keep Travis on and go that route. And then let's keep it pushing with this recruiting, baby. Let's go. So other than that, good afternoon. I see everybody starting to pop into the chat here. Love it.
Yeah, man. Y'all make sure y'all holler at us in this chat, man. What's up? My man Keontae is in the place, man. What's up, baby?
Scotty Boyd in the house.
We're gonna talk about it.
Oh man, Elizabeth Carano, she's a regular to our channel.
Hey,
Elizabeth,
if you're an Auburn fan, man, drop a War Eagle or drop an Eagle, drop something. Let us know. Even if you're Alabama, you can shout out whatever y'all shout out. Like, we just want to hear from y'all, man.
Yeah, we might ban curse words from the chat eventually, but today we'll allow it.
We'll allow 4-letter words like starts with R and ends with the letter that's T. So yeah, you go ahead and let us know where you're from.
There we go. I see everybody popping in here. Listen, you know what? We have been talking about where our listeners are from. So you know what? If you're in the chat right now, hit the chat and just drop your city, man. Rep your city. Let us know where you guys are listening to from.
Somebody said it's the Ike Show. When did it turn into the Ike? Listen, I understand if you tuned in Wednesday, I was on my soapbox a tad bit, and I apologize if it seemed like I was monopolizing the conversation. That's not my intent at all.
Right. So we got Tennessee in the house. We've got Norfolk.
Oh, yeah, VA, what's up?
Yeah, Mobile, Dothan in the house here. Columbus, GA. That's
334.
Yeah, the 334 of Blake's World. ATL.
Atlanta.
Yeah. I saw a couple of Birminghams in there, Biloxi, Mississippi.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. More. Okay. Muscle Shoals.
The Shoals.
Phoenix City from the city. B Diddy.
Okay, that's my man.
That's
okay, Brian. We see you. We see you.
Lexington, North Carolina, Heflin, Alabama. Y'all from all over the place in the chat, man.
Hey, love it.
Jackson, Tennessee.
I don't even know where some of these places are. I ain't gonna lie to you. Tryon, North Carolina.
Oh, Glendale. Wow, that's what's up.
Yeah. This is Glendale, California. Lynette, Alabama.
Lynette.
Yeah. Glendale, yeah. Jacksonville, North Carolina, originally from Birmingham.
I love Glendale, by the way.
Yeah, I do love Glendale. I mean, listen, we had a good time out there for national championship, didn't we?
Yeah.
We had a good time out there in Glendale / Pasadena.
They're right next door to each other. So
let's see a Springville, Alabama down in the chat. What's up, Kimberly?
Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in here, right? Like, Harsin has hired some staff. Right. And I am pleasantly surprised and impressed with a lot of his hires. So I want to start on the defensive side of the ball. Probably the biggest, most impressive hire, A+ in my book. Derrick Mason. Derrick Mason is our new defensive coordinator. Caesar, I know that you got some things to talk to us about Derrick Mason. You want to give us kind of like a high-level overview of what we can expect from Derrick Mason's defense? What kind of transition are players on defense going to be looking forward to going from Steele's defense to Mason's defense?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Again, I reserve judgment on getting grades until we start actually playing games. I'm that kind of guy, but needless to say, I was excited about Derrick Mason for sure. Yeah. He was someone who I would say we went out and got him, I wouldn't be mad at all. And his defense does a lot of the similar things that Steele's does. He's a base 3-4 guy. And his biggest thing is to stop the run. We saw it a lot at Stanford and he was really came on the scene and grew to popularity by how he stifled Oregon's offense at the time. Was really a vaunted offense. I believe there was a few games in 2013, 2012 when he was slowing down Kenyon Barner. Remember, he was running wild in the Pac-12 or Pac-10 at that time. And so his mission is to stop the run. He likes to set the edges and funnel runners back into the interior or the teeth of the defense. So the transition I would like to see, or transition I think we will see, will be the responsibility of the inside linebackers. And if you notice, that was an area where we were kind of thin last year or this year in 2020. And that's one of the things that I'll be curious to see how they shore up that position, how they coach those kids up, because that's a big piece, or that's a big player in that defense. If you remember at Vanderbilt, there was a linebacker by the name of Zach Cunningham, who was basically playing all over the field and played out of his mind. He played in that interior lineman. So you need a very athletic guy who can diagnose, read what the offense is doing, and then just react. So that's going to be a big transition part in that position. Another thing that you're going to notice is going to be a little different is that while he likes to do a little different things in coverages, what we're going to see is your cornerbacks kind of playing off of the line of scrimmage. If you recall, under Steele, they used to play a lot of bump and run.
Right.
We may see some of that at times, but what I've noticed, especially at Vandy, a lot of those cornerbacks play off of the line of scrimmage a little bit. So that's going to be a little bit of a different thing to see there in the coverage aspect. But those are pretty much the main differences or the things that I see offhand. Also, your linemen, they're going to be asked to not necessarily shoot gaps, but basically hold their blocks and clog up the middle, freeing up your linebackers to play in space. So that's going to be something different too, especially with our linemen, our lack of depth across the line. I'm curious to see Lee Hunter, who we recently signed on, how he comes into play this upcoming year. That will present a lot of opportunities for him to step up and play as a freshman. So those are some of the differences that I see with Derrick Mason's defense from Kevin Steele's.
Oh, man. Okay, so you touched on something.
Hold on. Big shout out right here to Mystic Wanderer with the super chat. Appreciate you, man, very much.
Appreciate that. All right, you know what? While we're on this.
Yeah, I'm about to say, while we're talking about it,
while we're talking about it, we appreciate the super chats. However, YouTube takes 45%. So while you are donating $10, we do not get $10. So if you really want to support us, please hit that GoFundMe in our bio, and you can donate there. We really appreciate that. You taking the time to do that. We take
the super chat stuff too. Like to say, it's convenient.
Here's what it is.
We appreciate it very much.
Just so you know where your dollars are going.
I'm just saying, if you love YouTube just as much as you love us, keep doing what you're doing. But if you're giving it to us, then yes.
Yeah, right. Okay, so moving on. Isaac, so Caesar touched on something that I wanted to kind of hear your thoughts on about Derrick Mason, right? You know, he came to fame shutting down Oregon's high-powered offense, right? And you know, that was significant at the time. They were revolutionizing offense at the time. How significant do you think that's going to be in this new SEC? Because at Vanderbilt, a lot of people were hung up on his head coaching record. But the truth was, he delivered like the only 2 winning seasons they've had in like 25 years or something like that, right? It was, I don't remember the exact stat. I just remember, you know, he coached them well enough that defense, they were a tough out for those 2 years for everybody.
His defense has definitely been good. Like that's not the problem with Vanderbilt has always been their ability to secure talent, right? It's just hard to recruit at Vanderbilt because, unfortunately, you know, the unfortunate reality is the academic standards are higher there. So you're just going to not get as many guys that are willing to have to put up with that as well as go play football because they're not getting paid to play football, right? Like they want to play football, but if I got to be, you know, at this academic standard as well, it's just harder, right, to recruit there. So the issue for him wasn't his ability to coach. It's his ability to secure talent, right? It was hard for him. So, but I do think that Derrick Mason as a defensive coordinator you get him some talent, he's going to be a great mind that can put that talent in position to be successful for you. And they're going to compete for him consistently as well.
Right.
So the philosophy changes are going to be notable. You know, he talked about the defense going from Steele he played 3 down linemen sometimes, usually so in the instance not last year, but the year before last against LSU, we were playing the 3 down linemen, 3 linebackers. It wasn't a 3-4, but it was a 3-3, and then they played cloud in the back end, right?
5. Yeah.
So he played 3 down linemen occasionally, but still they were 2 gapping. They were single gap assignments even with those 3 down linemen, because he was always bringing a linebacker as the additional rusher with Kevin Steele. With Derrick Mason, they're going to be 2 gapping on defensive line. So that's going to be an adjustment for them figuring out how to make sure that they are basically just people eaters in the middle. They just want to clog up space and let the linebackers be downhill, which I think actually is going to be. Coby Mclean decided he was going to come back for his senior season.
Yes.
I think that's going to benefit Coby because he's a fast to the ball guy. Same thing with Owen Papo. Those guys, they're the thing that they do best is speed. So if you don't have to slow them down about figuring out where they're going to go, they just see the hole and hit it. Right. Then hopefully that speed is going to be advantageous for them.
And they have a lot of options. I mean, they can either set the edge because they look great playing on the edge, or they can play on the inside and fly down. I think for them, they were out of position a lot. And I think in this defense, they can just, like you said, read and react because you got guys.
We're going to have to get a better mic, right? Whoever the mic linebacker is going to be in this new defense, I don't think Coby Mclean, even though he was a great tackler in space and he made some good plays for us, I think he's going to, as in a 3-4 scheme, I think he's going to be better on the outside, or at least playing the weak side linebacker as opposed to the Mike. If we get a better Mike out there playing, I think that's going to be great.
Yeah, you know, so we can agree that the linebackers are going to be able to play more downhill in Derrick Mason's defense, right? I think that's exciting to hear. I hope that Travis Williams is the one coaching them to do that. Just going to throw that out there. Yeah. You know, we're big fans of Travis Williams on the show.
I saw a couple of people in the chat asking, was T. Will come back? We don't have any confirmation on that.
No news
Most we know, we said this earlier, is that he got an interview Thursday, right? So Thursday.
If he does, sorry to cut you off, Mike. If they do bring him back, it would definitely be for the outside linebacker, because the inside linebacker coach, that position has been filled by Jeff Schmedding, who was announced this weekend. He will be that, and he's the run game coordinator on the defensive side of the ball. That's an interesting title that I've never heard at Auburn, but hey, more power to you. So if Travis does get brought on, it will be as the outside linebacker coach.
Definitely. Shout out to Auburn Football Highlights. If you guys want to see Auburn Football Highlights, he's got them all in one spot. That's his TikTok handle. You can go to his TikTok and check out any number of the 3 highlights we had during the Citrus Bowl. Anyway, so we had we made some other interesting hires on defense that I want to talk about. Probably one of the most surprising but pleasant ones to me was Zach Etheridge coming in to coach DBs. Absolutely. Right? If you're an Auburn fan, you remember Zach Etheridge was a solid DB for Auburn in his time with us. He went directly into coaching after his playing days, and has kind of been rising through the ranks. What do you guys think about Zach Etheridge coming in to what probably was the most solid position group on our team? Right? Like, I mean, can we agree on that? Like, name a position group that was more solid than our DBs this year.
I
think you're right.
Probably the best performers on the team consistently. I like the Etheridge hire just from the standpoint of, number one, you know, he knows how to recruit the South. He was coaching at Houston most recently. So being out there in Texas, and this is going to be one of those things where, you know, I was caping pretty hard for us to try to bring Travis back as our DB coach, but I think Zach is a solid hire just because he's on the incline as far as his career is concerned, and you know he understands the culture of Auburn. He's a former Auburn guy, so yeah, I think Zach Etheridge is going to be a good fit. Jury's still out about his ability to coach up guys and just be those competitors on the outside. But if his playing career is any indication and what the Houston defenses were able to do, then I think he'll be okay. Because Houston always had defense.
I think it's a good hire. I think all of us would have loved to have seen T. Rob announced by Auburn football as a DB coach. But to be honest, hiring him would have been like hiring Muschamp. They're trying to get back to where they were.
Right.
And T. Rob was a defensive coordinator for a few years. He wants to get back there. And I feel like him going to Miami, I think is where he ended up landing, gives him the best opportunity to make an impression and get back to being a defensive coordinator. Derrick Mason is the guy at Auburn. So for T. Rob, he wants to go somewhere where he can shoot back up the ranks again. And I think where Zach is happy to be in the SEC. He's happy to be. This is a big opportunity for him. He loves Auburn. This is an opportunity for him to learn under Derrick Mason. I feel like he will be here longer than a T. Rob. And he's actually coached up a kid, according to Pro Football Focus. I think Marcus Jones was noted as an All-American in 2020. And Etheridge has been there since 2019. So for him to coach kids who are actually excelling at the cornerback position is notable, especially at Houston. So I think this is an up-and-comer. He loves Auburn. I think this is a good hire. I think it was a good fit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, listen, I'm a big fan of Zach, and I'm a big fan of players who actually excelled at their position coming back to coach their position. Things like Cody, wide receiver coach, I didn't think made a whole lot of sense because that wasn't his natural position.
Right.
I think it had a lot to do with why we saw underwhelming production at wide receiver, and then the mismanagement from the other side, keeping him there when we were clearly underproducing in that position. So,
he's a heck of a recruiter, though.
Yeah, I mean,
I gotta give him that. He can recruit.
Give him a recruiting position then.
Yeah,
right. Like,
he can recruit.
But coaching, maybe wasn't his thing. So, like, I so far, right, defensive side of the ball, there were some other hires that they made on defense. He brought over his co-defensive coordinator from Boise State. We saw, we're not 100% sure on what all these guys are going to be coaching just yet. But the most important thing was to get the guys through the door and start recruiting to try to save this recruiting class, right? We were damn near close to 50th in recruiting the last time I looked. And so I want to get you guys I want to pause right here as we're going down the list of coaches and talk about recruiting. What do we have? Because there was a comment earlier I put up that just said, hey, are these guys recruiters? Percy, hey, shout out Percy. This is my first time seeing you comment here. Are these guys elite recruiters? Right. I think that's one of the reasons why they brought Lack back. Bobo, I've heard some good things about him in recruiting. Like, how do we feel these guys are going to recruit the SEC? Because Harsin doesn't have inroads here in the South, right? And I think some people are hoping he can poach a few from out west that maybe would have passed him over because he was at Boise, even though they liked him, right? Now he's at Auburn. Maybe those guys are saying, I'll give Harsin a look at Auburn because let's be real, players commit to coaches and not schools. Primarily, they commit to coaches for the most part. So, how do we feel about recruiting? Isaac, I'll start with you. Like, do you think we're going to be able to salvage this recruiting class, and where do you expect them to finish?
Yeah. So, as far as the recruiting class in particular, I don't know how many more. Like, it's kind of difficult at this point to flip guys. They've pretty much made their decision on where they're going to go. There might be a couple of stragglers out there, but what I do expect them to do is get some guys from the transfer portal. That were either previous commits at other schools. Particularly, it looks like Will Friend has been good with a lot of offensive line talent across the country. And there's a possibility, it's rumored, I think he already hit the transfer portal. Wanye Morris, that was at Tennessee, was a Will Friend recruit. And now he's at Auburn and he hit the transfer portal. So it's been rumored, that connection could bring him down to the Plains. If that's a good sign. If that happens. In addition, we already talked about Mike Bobo being really strong with his ability to recruit competent quarterbacks, guys that are in the league. I mean, we're talking about Matthew Stafford, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now is a recruit of his. We're talking about Sonny Michel and Nick Chubb being recruits that he was
Aaron Murray.
Aaron Murray, you know what I'm saying? Like the guys who were all SEC caliber, NFL caliber. Now, Aaron Murray didn't have a great NFL career, but whatever. But still, he played well when he was at Georgia.
Sure.
But his ability to recognize talent and recruit is going to be good. We got Cadillac coming back. We've already seen Tank was one of his recruits, right? So we know he knows how to recognize good running back talent.
Right.
Same thing can be said for the defensive side of the ball. We've already talked a little bit about Zach Etheridge. I think him being at Houston was probably a deficit. Him coming to Auburn is probably going to actually improve his ability to land some of these recruits. That's one of the reasons why we're definitely hoping that Travis is coming back, because we feel like he's going to be able to secure some of the talent that we need to have on the defensive side of the football. But I do think he's building a good recruiting base. Guys who know the region, guys who know talent. And I am fully confident in his ability to put talented players. Again, same thing I said with Derrick Mason, his ability to put talented players in position to be great on the field. Derrick Mason's a good defensive mind, and I think he's a good developer of talent. You can say what you want to about Vanderbilt's teams. They always competed, whether, they lost a lot of games close, right? Like they were getting blown out by the best talent, but anybody who he could be on par in talent with, he was going to have his team out there ready to compete.
Right, for sure.
And I think that that's going to be the exact same thing on the offensive side of the ball as Harsin puts that offensive staff together.
Well, we know that Schmedding is coaching inside linebackers, right? And Caesar, do you want to kind of round out this defensive hire staff? I know there was a question about whether Garner is done. I don't know that should actually be a question. I think we can all freely assume Garner is done, but what are we doing in that defensive line?
I think he's done. I really do think he's done. Actually, they brought on, it was announced last week, Spencer Danielson, who was a co-DC at Boise, was coming on. Now, he's in a bit of a holding pattern. And the reason why he's in a bit of a holding pattern is that because coming from Boise on the defensive side, Boise just announced their head coaching hire and a replacement for Brian Harsin, which is Andy Avalos, who served as the defensive coordinator at Oregon. So he coached at Boise prior to going to Oregon. And so what that opens up is an opportunity for Danielson to actually stay at Boise and get a raise, becoming the defensive coordinator there. So in the coming days this week, that will kind of fill itself out. But we even speculated on the live show last week that I think Danielson was hired by that point. It was announced that he was coming to Auburn. We basically concluded that him coming to Auburn meant that Garner was out. So if he does not come to Auburn, it makes us wonder who will actually coach the line. So we're actually in a bit of a holding pattern to see what Danielson does, what Boise does at that point. But I'm thinking it's almost safe to conclude that no matter what happens, Garner is not coming back.
Yeah.
I don't even think he's gotten an interview yet. So, at this point, why interview Travis before you interview Garner? Like, they've had time to put that out there. So I don't know.
Right. So, you know what? That brings me to something I kind of want to discuss before we move to the offensive side of the ball, right? In the coaching hires. There were some things flying around about Garner being part of the Gus coup, right? And I want to be clear here about what it is we do at the War Rapport, right? This is a fan forum. We're here for you guys. We want you to hear from us. We want to hear from you, and we want to bring you guys information and education. The one thing that we don't want to do, that some fellow content creators are doing, is we don't want to be a rumor mill. A lot of this stuff is some stuff is fair game. Anything about coaching is fair game, right? Anything about performance is fair game, right? But these things that affect these guys' lives, right? Because at the end of the day, it's families that are affected. Me personally, like, I know people who are connected to some of these coaches, and they're just sitting in a holding pattern waiting to hear what's going to happen to their families. So to the extent that I want to smash stuff, because I got into it with somebody on the All About Auburn board, and if he's watching, you'll know it's him. Like, listen, I want all the smoke on this one. I'm just going to go ahead and put the drum out there, right? Like, Travis Williams had nothing to do with the Gus coup, period. Plain and simple.
There's nothing substantiated that even indicates that. Gus not getting along, is that still a reach to?
It's such a reach. Yeah.
So
and
just leave speculation where it is.
Right. And without saying what I know and who I know it from, I'm just going to go ahead and say that is so far out the realm of reality, and spreading that rumor around is dangerous and irresponsible. Right now, we talked about some stuff with steel and boosters. I think booster meddling has just been well documented at Auburn, so that's fair game to talk about. But in terms, but anything outside the realm of coaching, they're just coaching performance and the job that he's done. I just don't see. It's just not true. Right. So I just want to make sure that, again, now that you guys are listening, I see there are almost 200 live listeners on this. As our platform builds at the War Rapport, we have a responsibility to say what's true and not substantiate things that are unproven or, may negatively affect people. So I'll get off my soapbox now. I just wanted to put that out there. Moving to the offensive side of the ball now. I see some comments here about what we think about Mike Bobo, right? Like, listen, the defense wasn't exactly a mess, so I expect the new defensive staff to be able to come in and at least maintain the status quo, if not improve substantially on what we had this year, right? Because they lost some things. I think they took a step back without, NFL draft picks that we lost on the defensive line. Offensively, though, right, we've got some holes to fill, a lot of holes to fill. So let's start with Mike Bobo. Isaac, tell us about the Bobo experience and what we can expect from Bobo this season in terms of scheme and, quarterback play.
So here, I'm not going to run down a bunch of numbers for you guys today because we are going to probably do a separate live diving into this a little bit more. But I will say in short that things that people, let me address the concerns that people have about Mike Bobo. The concerns I have about Mike Bobo, which is his offense tends to be a little more vanilla. He has always kind of traditionally been a run first, play action type of guy, right? And people want to see that high-powered spread type of offense that most offenses are going towards. And so that's been the concern with Mike Bobo from a lot of fans. Same concern I had. After doing a little bit more research on the situation, what I will say is his quarterbacks tend to be very efficient. He's not asking them to do a lot, but they have been very efficient traditionally. His offenses have found ways to put playmakers in positions to be big-time guys. When you look at just last year in South Carolina with a guy like Shi Smith, or the last couple of years with Shi Smith was the focal point of that offense because he knew he was a guy, if I can put the ball in his hands, he's going to be able to do some stuff for me. And that's something we've been talking about at Auburn for years is we've got all of this talent on the outside. We've got these backs. His running backs have always had good ability to produce because he's had good offensive line talent, right? So they've been able, so that bodes well for people like Tank coming back, right? We know he's going to have an opportunity to go out there and be a 1,000-yard rusher under Mike Bobo because he's going to feature that in his offense. Brian Harsin is a fan of very balanced offenses. So when you talk about the inventive mind that Brian Harsin has with the designing plays, Mike Bobo's ability to really scheme up guys to get them in position to be top contributors. And
I'm sorry. Can I go back?
And
love our comments, man.
War Eagle game. Yes,
yeah.
We concur.
We hope so too.
But
I think if you put all of those things together, I think you have the ability for an offense to be very dangerous on a consistent basis because what Bobo does really well, number one, is recruit, and then number two, put guys in position to be successful, regardless of where they are. And so that's something I'm definitely looking forward to with his offense. His offensive efficiency was the first thing that jumped up to me. Quarterbacks have been traditionally very efficient under Mike Bobo, which, not to get back on the Bo bashing train. We got Bo and we got Bobo, but not to get back on the Bo bashing train. I think that will indicate that if Bo Nix is not able to fix some of his issues with being able to deliver the ball accurately on time, he's not going to survive under this coaching regime.
Right. Cartel Phillips, hey man, shout out to this guy. He is consistently here telling us that Malzahn is a doofus, right? Like, and I appreciate the conviction of these comments. But I'm sorry, I had it for a second. I mean, he's just like, yo, like Bobo, anything is better. I get it. The Cartel thinks anything is better.
I feel like you're holding back on your thoughts on Malzahn, Cartel. Yeah. Let us know how you really feel about him.
Yeah, for sure.
I've been hearing his name. I've been hearing this.
I've been hearing this as well too. I'm also hearing the guy from UCF. may actually come to coach wide receivers for us. Daryl Wyatt, I think is his name.
That's a new name.
Yeah, like this his name has been floated around out in Daryl Wyatt. Yeah, Daryl Wyatt from UCF is possibly coming over. So they're giving him a look as well too.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe you guys know in the chat, Brian McClendon was on Georgia's staff at one point. Was he?
He was.
And I know he brought in a gang of running backs when he was at Georgia. So he's known for his recruiting prowess as well.
Right. So let's while we're moving down the offensive side, let's talk about this comment right here because we've had some transfers. Right.
Yeah, man.
There are not a ton of backs in the running back room is thin. That's quiet. Right. You can hear a pin drop in there right now. So we've got Tank. And we got one other dude who's left in there besides Shivers, right?
Shivers.
He was rumored to be transferring, but
he was rumored to be in the portal, but I don't know. He hasn't done it yet.
I think maybe Caddy coming back might have something to do with that. You know, he was like, okay, if y'all gonna keep my guy Cadillac, then you know I'll ride with y'all one more year. We can. I don't know.
Listen. If we were going to, if you told me that Auburn was going to end up with two backs going into the offseason, which two would you pick? These are the two.
These are the two. These are the two.
Only because I hadn't seen Mark Anthony Richards enough, though. Because if I saw him a little bit, the little bit I saw of him, I liked.
Right. I'm still in my feelings about him being gone. No doubt. But if I had to pick or keep two based on what we've seen of them, it would be these two. And yeah, I really wish Mark Anthony Richards would have stayed around because I really feel like he could have been used in this offense.
So sticking here, right? Again, if you haven't seen the King Dunlap interview, I highly suggest you go watch that interview. It was highly informational. He talked a lot about development. But you know, Caesar asked King if you could give these guys any one bit of advice, you know, with a new coach coming in, what would it be? And King said, buy in. Buy into what the coach is doing, what he's saying. Buy in because you cannot succeed unless you buy in, right? And that hit me like a ton of bricks. I just thought, like, wow, like, I mean, it was very powerful how he communicated that. How much of these transfers are about guys saying, "I'm not buying into this," right? Like, I mean, you know, I felt like part of recruiting is convincing guys to come back and to stay.
Right.
Yeah,
so I think there's a couple of things that you have to think about when you're talking about that. Number one, you already mentioned it earlier. Guys aren't really recruiting, committing to the school. It's more so about coaches, and I think maybe some of those guys had some connections with Malzahn, and then the uncertainty around Cadillac, they were just like, all right, I'm out, bro. Like I'm not going to wait around because if they wait too long to hit the transfer portal, they might not get an offer from a school that they want.
Right.
So they didn't want to sit in limbo waiting to see what was going to happen with Cadillac. If Cadillac was a guy for them, but if Gus was their guy, then they're gone already, right? Like because he's not coming back,
right?
You know, so I think that is a possibility of why specifically the running backs decided they were going to peace out. Like Mark Anthony Richards, I think he was frustrated just in not getting playing time. And he saw the handwriting on the wall with Tank and said, you know, I need to go somewhere else where I can start to play. The situation with the other kid, Williams, with DJ Williams, I'm not 100 because he was getting playing time. So I think that's more so connected to, you know, a coach situation. And then Harold Joyner when he transferred, like
see Mark Anthony Richards.
Yeah, I wasn't a big Harold Joyner fan to begin with, just because I feel like he never really reached any potential. But that could be because he was not being used properly. There's a ton of reasons, but whatever it is, I think he probably was the guy that it made the absolute most sense to transfer. 1B, if I was putting on that list, would be Mark Anthony Richards, just playing time. I think DJ, a healthy DJ would have been good for us as a spillback, but when was DJ healthy, right? So
right. Yeah, he was a shell of himself this year. And Harold Joyner is an athlete. You are going to figure out how, even if it's not at running back, how can we use this guy, right? And because he was just not being used, he felt the need to leave, especially with Mark Anthony Richards.
So let me pause here for a second on this comment. So this is something that has been kind of parroted and repeated a lot in the Auburn hemisphere and Twitter sphere over the last few weeks is that Gus played favorites, right? And it prevented a lot of guys from getting a chance to actually show their stuff because Gus played favorites. So this is a huge reset. Maybe some of these guys were Gus's favorites. I'm not sure how many of them saw the field anyway. But moving forward here, I think we can all agree Harsin is going to hit the reset button for the most part. And I think primarily what we're all hoping is at quarterback. So Bobo and quarterbacks. He had some notable quarterbacks at Georgia. I took a look at some of his offensive ranking stats. I mean, top 15 on average every year at Colorado State, right? He has produced some fairly prolific offenses, right? They've had their moments of deficiency for the most part, but the Aaron Murrays that he's of the world and Staffords of the world that he's coached give me hope that we can at least get somebody in who is competent or teach the guys that we have how to be competent, right? But moving away from Bobo, I think we can all agree, no matter who you put back there, if you can't protect them, you're going to have a hard time. So Will Friend is the new offensive line coach, right? How do you guys feel about Friend? Isaac, I'll start with you. We were so deficient in offensive line this year. And, to kind of cut Bo some slack, he was running for his life some games. Right. It was like, hey, if y'all ain't gonna protect me, I'm gonna have to roll out to the right every play. Help. Right. So, how much of an impact is Will Friend going to be able to have with the guys that we have in this first year? I think we've got 2 offensive line commits coming in so far. In a class of only 11 commits total right now because the guy from Oklahoma backed out the tight end. How much of an impact do you think he's going to be able to make, Ike?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an immediate impact. So there's a couple of things that I think is going to make it an immediate impact, not just specifically on Will Friend, because I think the biggest impact he's going to have is as a recruiter. But he is a good developer of talent as well. But I think what is going to be helpful is just getting into an offense that will allow some of these guys to just be better at what they're supposed to be doing. B. Will and I have a conversation about this from time to time about whether or not it's about fit. And I think offensive line, I don't care what position you play, fit has a lot to do with how well you play. If a guy doesn't fit initially, you have to coach him up into a position where he understands it. But if he fits, then it's easier to put him in positions to be successful. And I think what Will Friend is going to be able to do is take a look at what the talent is and make sure that we're using it to the optimal. And that's going to be across the offensive line. Is this guy even a good center, right? Does he fit at the center position? Does he fit at the guard position for what we're asking him to do? Because if he's going to be a pulling guard, does he have that mobility to be able to do that consistently? Are we going to be able to play up-tempo offenses? Because if he's not in the right conditioning, which goes back to strength and conditioning coach, if he's not in the right condition to do that, we can't have him on the field consistently. So I think Will Friend is a good evaluator of talent and putting guys in a position where they're going to be successful. So, and we need a guy who understands how to coach the kind of blocking schemes that Brian Harsin is going to be asking those guys to do. We didn't have that guy on our staff, I don't think, prior to now. So I think it's going to be good. We got a super chat here. I want to make sure I get real quick. Sorry about that.
Go ahead.
Alabama Prep says, "Oh, dang."
I dropped out.
What I would say, Mike, is for those curious about what Will Friend can do, see the Auburn Tennessee game this year and how the Tennessee O-line was blowing us off of the ball. All right. Just that's a glimpse of what you can expect with Will Friend coaching, bringing in talented guys and having them blow people off the line.
Right. Exactly.
That was his audition. Go ahead, Ike.
Go ahead, Ike. You talk about
you got the prep, the Alabama prep coming.
Yeah, listen, I think we can all agree the tight ends were extremely underutilized, and we've had some decent ones come through. CJ Uzomah, for example, he was a talent that was extremely underutilized in our system.
Right.
He's good enough to catch touchdowns in the NFL.
That's a good point.
Why wasn't he good enough to be featured in Auburn's offense, right? And I'm looking forward to seeing some adjustment there in terms of us kind of using all the talent that we have, right? But it will start up front. One of the interviews that we have coming for you guys, I'm gonna tease this one. Is little known offensive lineman, I say that sarcastically, named Ben Grubbs. He sat down and talked with us and talked about how coaches utilize his talent, right? And how they saw him. I mean, he was one of those players who played defense in high school, came to Auburn. They tried him at a bunch of different positions, and they eventually found a position for him. And then he played 9 years in the NFL at that position. Right. So evaluating talent is important. It is being able to put guys in the right position and understand what their talents are and let them use those talents to help us win every Saturday is so important. Now, Will Friend, again, I've heard it said over and over again. A lot of us can agree this is one of the most important hires Auburn will make. Right.
And I think, not to interrupt too much, I think pairing him with Pittman is important too, because Pittman is a former offensive lineman. So not only is he strength and conditioning, but he understands how to get linemen in proper condition.
Right. This comment here, I'm a bit skeptical about the pro style offense because still remember 2012. The first year may be a little rough. Maybe not. But a lot of that will depend on how quickly the O-line adjusts to what they're going to be asked to do. King talked a little bit about playing in a 2 technique versus a 3 technique and how that can be an adjustment for a lot of linemen. And then we covered extensively how strength and conditioning will factor in greatly to how well players are able to make that transition. We had a lot of injuries, a lot of dings, and there were things going on with this that I thought, I know Ryan Russell, some guys swear on Ryan Russell. Some guys who were always hurt during their college career swear on Ryan Russell, but whatever. And we have made a change at that position, and I'm really excited. We've been told by players that, the strength and conditioning coordinator is the most important position that never gets talked about. Right? We took it for granted under Tuberville because Yaxel was producing monsters. Right. We just got used to it. Right. And, after that, they kind of continued that. But as that started to wane, we start to see guys get injured and they're not prepared. And because we did not have talent developed past the 1 deep, your starter getting injured is a significant problem. Right. So I'll use LSU as an example this year. Look how many guys sat out because of opted out, got hurt, and they just kept it pushing and really salvaged their season. I think 5-5, based on what they lost, was an amazing record. They were down to their 3rd string true freshman quarterback, and he came in and beat Florida. I almost called that one. But I just feel like I'm hoping that Harsin will get us to a point where what we see at other schools, right, the top schools in our league, if you look at the top 4 schools in our league, I don't count Auburn in that top 4 anymore, right? Alabama, Florida, Georgia, LSU. Those are the top 4 schools. And Texas A&M is knocking on the door. Right? Based on what they accomplished this year. Right? They just seem to plug the next guy in. Georgia had so many quarterbacks. They all had to transfer out and start at other programs because they were literally that good. And if we can just find 2 guys at each position, 2 legitimate starters at each position, Auburn will be in much better shape in 2021. I still think that Harsin can win now with the staff that he's assembled. And recruiting may not be as important if they can develop the guys they have this spring. Right. And then bringing a good class of 2022.
We have a ton of talent that is still on this roster that we just haven't seen see the field. So that does not mean we are devoid of talent just because you're seeing guys transfer or just because guys are graduating. We've got talent on this football team. They just need to be put in position to be successful.
Right. This is an interesting question. So we don't have the answer to this.
Yeah, I don't know.
What I've been told is that Harsin has allowed at Boise, he's allowed his coordinators to actually call the plays.
Right.
Now, again, that doesn't mean that Harsin isn't helping with the game plan, helping with the play design. But I'm believing that Bobo will actually be calling the plays. But we'll see that unfold as we move along.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll be interested to see what the spring game looks like and the play calling when that comes up.
Right.
You know what? We got maximum eyeballs on this. So I just want to say this again right now. I'm going to say it every live cast until it happens. Right. If you are on Twitter, please go to Twitter and tweet at Coach Harsin. Give your boys at the War Rapport an interview. We'll keep it classy, but this is one of the questions that we would like to ask him about his offensive philosophies. Right? Do you plan on calling plays? How involved are you in offensive play calling?
Absolutely.
What can Auburn fans expect? Bobo, I'm sure is going to want to call his own plays based on.
He was calling plays at LSU.
Right.
He also was getting coached. His head coach was Muschamp, who's a defensive guy. So he's just like, he let Bobo do his thing. So
right. So go to Twitter.
South Carolina.
Go to Twitter. Tag me at Coach Harsin. Please talk to the War Rapport. They have some questions we would all like answered.
I mean, if you want these questions answered, then we will ask them for you. So
we will ask them.
Yes. Hashtag Harsin to the Rapport.
Right. Yeah. As our community grows, my guess is that they will not be able to ignore us. So let's keep this pushing.
We're only getting louder.
Right. We're only getting louder here. Tight ends. Yes, I agree
Agreed.
with his comments here. I mean,
agreed.
Again, I believe he backed out.
He backed out. He did back out.
Peyton Murphy, this guy backed out. So
that's just to your point. Kids recruit the coaches, not school.
Exactly.
I think we've got talented tight end too. So I don't know that we have to be sad that we don't have another guy. We've got 3 or 4 on the roster right now that are talented.
I would like to go back to a comment someone made about they're worried that this could be a repeat of 2012. I think you're comparing apples and oranges. Number one, in 2012, you still had the same coaching staff who was coaching one offense, trying to make the shift to a pro-style offense. This is a completely different coaching staff with coaches who believe in that concept and can teach it. So I wouldn't worry about that as much. It is a learning curve for the kids, but you have a coaching staff who has experience doing that.
Right, exactly. I don't think 2012 is really comparable. So interesting question. I want to ask you guys about coaching the portal. So we've said it extensively, and we agree that Harsin is going to have to hit the portal somewhat in this recruiting class. What are the rules right now around the portal? Like, can they openly can coaches solicit players who have submitted to the portal? Or, what are the rules against? Because we essentially have what is the equivalent to free agency in college football right now. Right. With players just being able to go to another program and play immediately because of these like COVID transfer rules. There has been some talk about abolishing the year to sit out anyway, totally, and allowing kids to transfer at least one time without penalty during their 5 years of eligibility.
I agree with that.
We're going to dig into that question. I thought it was a really interesting one, but it does kind of change the scope of how, coaches are going to fill out their rosters, in the spring after the season's over. If a guy is eligible and he hasn't transferred, I believe that the kids deserve that flexibility, quite honestly, because when you commit to a coach and then he leaves for another school, maybe you don't want to bail immediately. Maybe you want to try it to see if you can stay committed to that school, but then find out that it's not. And I don't losing a year of eligibility and having to sit out a year, I think overly penalizes the kid because of things that were well out of their control. It's going to affect Auburn disproportionately this year because of how much we're going to need from the portal. So I'll be interested to see kind of where that goes. I
hear everybody saying we have to hit the portal hard. Like, what positions do we feel like we have like this huge deficit at? We need another running back for depth, right? So
O-line depth, definitely. O-line depth.
Offensive line, we need to build our depth there. But we're talking about at most bringing in 6 guys to build that depth. I think we've got depth at defensive line. I haven't seen a lot of those guys talk about transferring out. We have depth at linebacker. We've had depth in the defensive backfield. So maybe an additional running back, an additional quarterback, and some guys on offensive line outside of that, I mean, again, we're talking about maybe 6 players.
Right.
But they just need to be quality. So we just got to get ahead of the curve on it. But I think we've got a ton of players that are out there that we just got to get in position and coach them up.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one too. I think that development is the thing that we're all looking for to just starting to happen on the Plains, right? Yeah. If you want to be consistently good, you have to develop the guys that you have. I saw an interesting comment, Isaac, about development, where I trolled the boards to argue with people for fun in my free time, and one guy was trying to make a point to me that in terms of development, that Gus was somehow not the problem. And I was just like, no, I think that's the biggest change we're all looking forward to is that under a new system, guys will actually start to be developed.
Right. Into professional players, right? Like they're going to be available to be what they're going to be asked to do at the college level is going to mirror what someone's going to ask them to do at the pro level more consistently. Right. And if you can get those guys to be capable college players, then they're going to move on to be a good pro.
Right. Is Bo capable of playing a pro style offense? So let's go ahead and clear this up. TBD, but what we have, he's going to be asked to do a lot of different things with pro style concepts. Mm-hmm. Right. So the multiple offense is what Harsin runs. But there are a lot of pro style concept things that Bo is going to be asked to do.
That he's never had to do his entire football career. Like, let's be clear about that. And again, people hear us bag on Bo, but here's the realities are never in his entire life has he been asked to consistently go under center. Not in high school, not so far in college. Out they did it a lot in Pee Wee. I mean, he might have did it when he was in Pop Warner Pee Wee League or whatever. But he's not going to be a drop back passer when he was 8, right? So this is going to be new for him. He's going to have to figure out his footwork. He's going to have to figure out how to read a defense differently than he's ever had to read a defense before. He's going to have to figure out how to make sure that he understands, if they're going to let him audible at the line, which I doubt initially they will, how to make sure how to get us out of bad plays into better ones. All of those things, that's going to be a learning curve, man. That's a lot. And he has to do all of that while maintaining some level of fundamentals once he drops back, which he has not done ever. So I don't know. It's a lot. It's going to be a lot for him. Bo, we talked about this the other day. Bo needs to be working right now. If he's not working right now, he's already behind.
Right. And that's what the players are telling us in these interviews. You guys will hear them up. I'm gonna leave this up for a second and just address this really quickly. So, Harsin has done a ton of interviews, and one of the reasons why we're pushing to interview him is because it seems that everybody is doing mental gymnastics to avoid asking him any questions that fans actually want to know the answers to. I don't care that he drag raced. I'm not sure how that translates to winning football games, but we're pushing. Please tweet at Coach Harsin. Tag us at the War Rapport.
What's the hashtag?
Harsin to the rapport. Harsin to the rapport.
Oh yeah, Harsin to the rapport. Hashtag Harsin rapport. Yeah, and so I just feel like we just some of these questions he can answer, like about play calling and what he normally does. So we want to get a chance to answer that.
Quarterback. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, we saw that kind of.
Yeah.
And
he didn't work out. Passes, though.
Yeah, it didn't work out in the Citrus Bowl, right? Loeffler was terrible, agreed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I agree with this comment as well, too. Like, quarterback development.
Definitely.
Yeah,
100%.
In the SEC, the new standard is that quarterbacks, now all the teams that are winning, their quarterbacks are dynamic passers or dynamic runners, right? And when I say dynamic, I mean outstanding. All right, look at the Trasks, and that might be the best 1-2 in terms of quarterbacks that we've seen in our league between Trask and Mac Jones.
Right.
That SEC championship game proved it to me. They were both dynamic passers. LSU had the leader in yards, before he got hurt. And, kind of moving forward, if we can't fix quarterback, we won't go far, because you have to score points in this new SEC to win.
And that was the year after after Joe Burrow. I mean, like these teams that are elite have elite quarterbacks.
Right. So if we can just get back to a mentality, right? A mentality of competing and players holding each other accountable. Right.
Killing Leffler.
Yeah. I mean, listen, some people just know people. I don't know. Like maybe that's it.
Right.
So we're talking about O-line, everybody here, these comments, spot on, QB. So interesting. We have some interviews coming that will directly answer this. We have a guy coming on who played in the Al Borges offense, right? Borges was interesting, right? He brought kind of a West Coast style of offense to Auburn. Mm-hmm. And after the Hugh Nalsminger experiment that didn't go so well in 2003 and almost got Tuberville fired, they brought in Borges. It was Jason Campbell's fourth coordinator in 4 years. Mm-hmm. And he went from being on nobody's board to a first-round draft pick. I think Jason got taken 25th overall in the 2005 draft, right? He played himself into what was a pretty long NFL career for the most part. Now, he played for the Raiders and the Redskins and some other teams. But, I think that ultimately, if you can block up front and your quarterback can go through their progressions, almost any offense will work, right? Like, I mean, if guys can know their assignments and be effective, you can block the guy in front of you. If you can whoop the guy's ass in front of you, right, whether you're a receiver or an old lineman or a running back, any offense will work. So that's why we keep coming back to development. I had no gripe with Gus's offense. My gripe with Gus's offense was that he would not concede that his offense needed a dynamic quarterback for it to work, right? A dynamic, excellent runner, right? And it was not adaptable to pocket passers. It just wasn't. Stidham had some success, but he regressed in his second year. It requires that system required too many other factors to be perfect,
right,
for you to be successful. And we need to be in a system that gives players a little leeway, man. Like, Gus's system, when it was good, it was great. But you needed one of the best O-lines in the league for it to be good. And I'm stressing that if you have a dynamic route tree and a quarterback that can go through his protections, you can cover up your offensive line somewhat with your short passing game.
Right.
That's what I was hoping we were going to see this year. It just didn't happen because our quarterback couldn't make those throws consistently, right? And then when the O-line couldn't block, the receivers weren't running route. It seemed like they had no chemistry. So when we talk about development, I am of the opinion that players take too much of the blame for not panning out. But what we have heard from former players that have been successful is that the great ones take it upon themselves to take the extra step to get better. They hit the field with their receivers and develop chemistry because the coaches officially can only get them for so many hours a week.
Right.
So
that's one of the things King was talking about in the interview.
Right. Ben talked about it. Jarris talked about it. So to me, I'm saying if I'm Bo and I expect to be Auburn's starting quarterback in 2021, I'm out there right now with my receivers because Seth is gone and Schwartz is gone and Stove is gone.
Right.
So even the guys who you've thrown the vast majority of passes to are no longer in the offense.
Are done.
It would behoove you to get out there and start working with these guys.
Right. So get in there and start just working on timing. You don't need a coach for that. You're a football player. Your quarterback, their receivers. Get out there and work on some timing routes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Learn some chemistry. Like, practice your fundamentals and get ready to compete. Because in the spring, we all expect that he's going to have to compete with Demetrius Davis for this job.
For sure.
Right.
If they don't bring in somebody out of the portal.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I can't stress that enough. he has to get out there and he has to take some of this on himself. And if you combine that with a coaching staff that is competent and knows what they're doing, we could see something special this year. And let me tell you, for Auburn, traditionally, when nobody expects anything of us, is when they come out and slay it.
That's when we.
The weight of expectation has crumbled this team in most years, right? I'm old enough to remember 2003. People don't remember. We came out ranked preseason number 7. USC ran us off the field 23-0 in that game.
Yeah, that was a hard game to watch.
Now, mind you, it was Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush and Lindell White. I mean, there was some
right. We came back that following week and dropped grabbed another L to Georgia Tech,
17-0.
Yeah,
right. During Jarris McIntyre scored the first touchdown of that season in Game 3 for us.
Yeah,
and those guys fought back to an 8-win season, topping it off with beating Alabama in a game that nobody expected us to win. But that mentality has to come back. The coaches are going to help with that, and then the players have to do what they need to do.
I'm going to have to disagree a little bit with this comment. I'm not saying it's a difficult thing. I'm saying if you've never done it before and your fundamentals are already bad, then it's going to be more difficult for you to adjust. If Bo was some fundamentally sound guy, then
Agreed.
Listen, okay, I'm gonna make sure the next time we get an interview with a quarterback, we're gonna talk to them about the differences for being able to do those two things, and then we can come back and have this conversation again.
Yeah, Austin Taylor, stay tuned. We'll have a pro come explain it in one of these interviews
I'll eat crow if he's like, it's no different between the two things. It's not that difficult to transition. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, you're assuming that you got a lot of other things going well for you to make that transition to going under center, which that's been our frustration so far, that it hasn't been the case.
Definitely. If you just look at the couple times that he had to go under center in critical times this year, it was almost a disaster because you're not good at what you don't practice. Right. He went under center and had to go back and spike the ball, and he almost spiked it,
and then he essentially fumbled it again. But they luckily called it a spike.
And the refs bailed us out, or this would have been a 5-5 season, possibly. The sneak in the Citrus Bowl, where he had to go under center and just fall forward 4 inches. We didn't get it. He doesn't go under. Now I know he may have had some kind of foot injury or something, but
or hamstring, something like that.
He tried to jump off a hurt leg. And it just was a complete disaster because you're not telling me that they practiced that and then that's what we saw.
Right.
Because if they did practice that and that's what we saw, I don't even know what to say about that. I honestly don't know what to say about that. Right. So like I think we have Trooper Taylor to thank for Cam. I would like to put that out there. Like he went out there and scouted Cam and said, we have to have this guy, and told Gene Chizik, if we don't get him, it'll set our program back 10 years. And
we got him, and it only set us back 4.
Right. Yeah. Bo can't read defense.
Just for one. Yeah. We had an amazing year though.
Yeah.
Right. Definitely. So, lots of AU news here, guys. We're approaching the hour mark. I want to close out talking about, something that this is a funny comment. I'm not sure about that one. I don't think Gus will be coaching the Pats anytime soon.
Jared Stidham just if he read that comment right now, he just had flashbacks. He's probably getting PTSD.
Yeah, right. Well, we do have a championship game coming up, fellas. Ohio State versus Alabama. Now, I will say the playoffs went about the way we expected. Right. Notre Dame had no chance. They did not belong in the playoff. Right. We went back and forth with our listeners about this. I believe that Texas A&M earned the right to get whooped by Bama a second time. I think Notre Dame has consistently proven to us that they cannot compete with top tier schools. Ohio State shocked the world.
Right.
Well, they didn't shock me because I said that game would be extremely competitive and close. But I thought that Trevor Lawrence would pull them out. It didn't happen. Justin Fields was the star of that game, clearly. And now, where we went in with a feeling that Ohio State maybe didn't deserve to be in this playoff because they had only played 6 regular season games.
Right.
How do we feel now, and who do we think is going to win this game? Do you guys think that did Ohio State with their blowout of Clemson prove that no matter how many games they played during the regular season, they deserve to be here?
No, talent-wise, of course, they deserve to be here. Like again, my argument was never about talent. It's about having a minimum number of games, which was the requisite that they had set at the beginning of the season when they started was 8, and they changed it just to get Ohio State in here. That's my only issue. Never an argument about talent. Yeah.
I actually didn't know that they set the threshold of 8, so that's interesting.
The Big Ten did.
Well, I think they changed it after the Big Ten decided they wanted to come back and play.
Okay.
Like I think that when they decided to come back, it was pretty much impossible for them to play 8 games, so they set it to 6.
No, Ohio State could have still played 8. They had 2 canceled because of COVID stuff. They changed it specifically to get Ohio State in. This was about Big Ten would have had an opportunity to do that. They had games canceled that they did not have time to reschedule. So that was the problem.
Right. So, Caesar, how do you feel? Like, who wins this game? I think it should be a good game.
I expect a good game, and that's pretty much all I expect. Do we know if old dude is coming back for Bama? Are they going to play him in this game?
Jalen Waddle?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Waddle has a chance to play in this one, right?
Yeah, he does have an opportunity to play.
Yeah, low-key,
I don't know
one of my favorite players.
I'm not sure if he is. I'm pretty sure he will probably want to. I think Ohio State gives Alabama a good game. I really do. I think it's a pick'em game. I'm gonna go with that team in Tuscaloosa. I'm gonna go with that team in Tuscaloosa.
This will be Saban's 6th or 7th championship in 12 years. I think it's 6 in 12 years. Isaac, who are you picking this one?
Yeah, this is a tough game for me to call too. Man, I honestly did not watch the game between Ohio State and Clemson. I just watched the scores, and if I had watched, I'd probably be able to more confidently pick this game. But I'm going to actually take Ohio State in the upset here.
Right. If Justin Fields plays like he did against Clemson,
it's Justin Fields 100%. That's going to be a big thing.
That's going to be a big thing.
But yeah, I'm gonna take.
You know what? I've bet on Bama all year. I just think this is one of Saban's best teams, and that he has really come through like one of his best coaching jobs. Although Jimbo Fisher was definitely SEC Coach of the Year in my eyes, right? But I'm gonna go. If Waddle plays, listen, we are in for a show. If Waddle plays, Devontae Smith won the Heisman. I was actually really happy with that choice. When was the last time we saw anybody but a QB win the Heisman? Right,
QB or running back, because
was Keyshawn the last person to do it, or was it? Yeah,
probably. I have to go back and look at it. I'm not sure, but
I know what's his place in Michigan. I know he did it before, I think.
Yeah, I think that I'm gonna go with Bama in this one. I hate saying I said that with so much disdain and regret.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, you just had to say the team in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I expect this to be a good game.
Yeah,
I really do. I think if Fields is healthy, definitely we should see something special. So I appreciate everybody who has tuned in and has
Desmond Howard.
Desmond Howard. Thank you.
Oh, yes.
Was the Heisman winner or wide receiver. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right. Appreciate everybody who was tuned in and, been supporting us. We have grown so much this year, and that's in large part thanks to you guys for your support. Just watching is enough support. If you want to get involved at a deeper level, the link to our GoFundMe is in our bio next to the promo on our channel page. Please go check that out. You can also find that on our Facebook page as well. We're growing and we're expanding fast. The goal of the War Rapport is edutainment, man. We want to be entertaining, but we also want to educate you guys so that you can be smarter football fans. And we're doing that by lieu of bringing in player interviews of former players who also went pro and had successful careers to talk to us about concepts and give us the inside scoop on what players go through, during their college careers to give us a better understanding of what we should expect and why we should be patient with not only coaches, but players. I think you guys will enjoy the interview series that we have coming up. Jarris McIntyre's interview drops tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern. So if you just are sitting around your computer working from home, please check that out. You can always watch it after the premiere as well. We are the War Rapport. Please like and subscribe. That is the #1 way to support the War Rapport. Hit that notification bell so you can get notified when we are going live and dropping content for you. The War Rapport on Twitter and Instagram, TW Rapport on TikTok. Gentlemen, we're signing out. As always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.